All right, Reish, confession time. We'll call this one Confession of a PR Pro who owns a marketing agency and yet is really bad, like seriously bad about her own PR.
All right, well then, if you're going to be that way, then I'm going to take it over for you. You need to be shouting it
Please
from the
do.
rooftops. You've got a huge event coming up. So I'm going to be your PR pro. So let me get into PR pro phase. Folks, you're going to want to get your tickets now to see our very own Julie Holton MC the breakout stage at Startup Grind Global 2024. It is a literal who's who in startups as the world's creators, community of founders, innovators, all coming together in Silicon Valley.
Well, the true headliners, Reish, the speaker lineup is incredible. We have Gary Tan, Jack Altman, Emily Chang, companies like OpenAI, you might have heard of them, Zapier, Notion, Coinbase, Poshmark. It's seriously going to be an incredible speaker lineup. I'm really excited to be emceeing the breakout stage. It's just going to be a really fun event. Startups need to be there.
Yes, this is fantastic. And your team, M Connections, event partners, you're leading all the media coverage for this, right?
Which is why I haven't done any of my own PR to say that our local folks from Lansing, local to me, in Lansing, Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, we have startup grind chapters all over the country. We have many of them in Michigan, heading out to Silicon Valley. But what I'm actually really excited about today, as far as today's episode is concerned, is kind of talking about what we typically think of tech in Silicon Valley, and actually a really growing and thriving tech hub that's not in Silicon Valley. It's actually here in my home state of Michigan. But Reish, when you think of Michigan and you think of technology or just industry in general, what do you think of?
Okay, honestly, when I think Michigan, in this order, more than likely, Wolverines, Pistons,
Go Blue.
Pistons, and of course, cars.
That's your former ESPN sports anchor background coming out.
Sports comes out number one. Everybody else is like, no, auto industry comes on. No, for me, sports is number 1, 2, and 3, and then we hit auto industry, and then of course politics. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, we won't talk about politics today. But if you think of the Motor City, Detroit, the auto industry, when you think of Michigan, then think about this when it comes to the evolution of the auto industry. We've got autonomous vehicles, we have AI, we have this whole electric vehicle, evolution happening right here in Michigan. And not just the auto industry, but Michigan is actually a growing hub for IT, cybersecurity. If you think of Duo Security, for instance, out of Ann Arbor, Doug Song and his team founded there. A lot of tech is happening in Michigan. And don't worry, this is not like a pure Michigan advertising campaign. Just wanted to give you some of that background as we get into today's guest, because she's gonna mention a city you may or may not have heard of. By the end of this episode, hopefully you all want to move there. It's just up the road for me. Grand Rapids is centrally located between Chicago and Detroit. And it really is a place to be if you are not just in tech, but a woman in tech.
Oh, this is great. So now that you have the map in your mind and the background, let's dive in. Think Tank of 3 starts right now. To the Think Tank of 3 podcast. I'm Reischea Canidate-Kapasouris alongside my phenomenal host, soon to be MC of Startup Grind Global 2024, Julie Holton.
I don't know if I'm glad I told you about that or not, but at least we got the PR going, Reish. Our third today, I am so excited to introduce. She is passionate about all things women, but especially women in technology. Jennifer Wangler is the Vice President of Technology at The Right Place in Grand Rapids. She works with national and international IT and tech companies. She also serves as Director of the Technology Council of West Michigan, and she has a super cool event coming up that I'm going to let her tell us about. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Julie Reese. It's a pleasure.
It's wonderful having you with us. So, you've spent your career supporting entrepreneurs and the workforce in one way or another. And over the last decade, as we just mentioned, you've been focusing in on technology. Now, a big part of that focus being women, because surprise, not women can do IT too. What led to this point? Why are you passionate about lifting up women in technology?
Yeah, great question. So, a couple years ago, let me start back. About 10 years ago, we brought together a handful of leaders in running technology councils in West Michigan. We started as a peer-to-peer organization. So, really, business leaders coming together to support each other in building their teams and their companies in West Michigan, quite frankly, with a passion far beyond the companies that they lead or even the technology that they represent. And so a couple of years ago, they approached me and said, Jen, we have these amazing women in our organizations. We're getting ready to retire, and we want to be able to elevate them into leadership spots. And so we last year launched our first, we called it Onward Michigan. So it was an opportunity for women to come together and talk about the unique challenges that they face and the successes that they were seeing in the STEM field, in leading technology companies. And so fast forward to today, we have expanded to a full day dedicated to talking about not just the challenges, but the successes that they're facing and meeting with their peers in the industry to talk about best practices and meet with other women that are leading tech companies in West Michigan.
Jennifer, I find it just really fascinating, and in a positive way, that it was the men on the tech council, the members that are men, that approached you wanting to really find ways to elevate the women in their companies. What is it that has kind of kept women back a little bit? And from your perspective, what are some of these unique challenges that women face?
In the tech industry, most of the leaders recognize that diversity of thought and of voice is super important in order to build the right product and create the right company to service the broad masses. But beyond that, I truly believe that it is an issue of network. So women just don't have that same trusted circle of network that the men have been able to create over the years for a whole host of different reasons. And so being very purposeful about creating a community and a space where women can come together, again, talk about those challenges, talk about the successes, and then continue to create space to meet with that trusted circle of advisors.
Speaking of the advisors, from your viewpoint, what are some of the challenges that women are facing in tech? And in all honesty, this could go across the board in all business facets, but is there anything in particular that you see in technology that women deal with more so than they were possibly anticipating, or what is that big challenge that they might be facing in the tech realm?
Yeah, thanks, Reischea. That's a great question. It is not just tech, it's leadership in general, right? I read a stat the other day that, less than 1 in 4 startups are led by women. And so not being at the table is a challenge, right? Because their voice is not being heard. So again, creating a voice in a space for women who are looking to raise money for their startup. So that is a huge opportunity and a challenge for women founders that are starting businesses.
It's never lost on me. And Risha, I always wish you lived closer for this, but whenever I get a group of women together, just girlfriends, for a girls' night, I held a Galentine's night in February, and I decided to invite a handful of my girlfriends, And then I had each of them also invite someone. That way there was, there were people that I would know, and also selfishly people I wouldn't know. But I wanted to kind of take this circle and expand it and have kind of, a plus one in this circle. And we ended up with this really, diverse group of women. It was really fun, of course. But what really shouldn't surprise me is every single woman in this room, like literally at the dining room table, there were about 20 people. Every single person is a leader. Many of them are entrepreneurs. A couple of them are startup founders. We had some kick-ass nonprofit executive directors. Every single woman in some way in her life has really done something incredible. And then all of the texts that I got after that night, it was like that night was really fun and amazing, but the real connection started after that. Women who didn't know each other, who were asking for each other's information and wanting to continue what had essentially started that night, the connections that were built, and extend them, after that night. I've been asked countless times, like, when's the next event? And, and this was just a gathering of girlfriends, if you will, not an actual, official networking type event. Jennifer, what you're doing is taking that Galentine's night and, adding in all the steroids to really make this an incredible experience for the women in your community. Tell us about this event that you have coming up and where the idea came from to bring women together, especially a large group of women who are not already connected with one another.
Yeah, the idea really came from, again, from those men that approached me looking for the opportunity to elevate women within their organizations into that C-suite or that leadership position. But Go Beyond really is a full day experience dedicated to talking about the opportunities and challenges and successes that women are facing, not just in the STEM field, but in leadership in general. And then the opportunity to create that trusted circle to continue those discussions beyond that day. So the morning, we'll kick off the morning with AG Collaborative, who will be leading us through an empowering event around leadership in women in STEM. They actually studied under Brené Brown, so really excited for that morning. And then we'll treat everybody to a wonderful lunch. And then in the afternoon, we'll kick off with our keynote speaker, Ms. Shannon Cohan. If you've not met her, she's amazing. She is the founder of an organization called Rockstar. She founded Rockstar Brunch here in Grand Rapids. And then we'll end the day with what I'm calling a mastermind experience. And again, that really is the opportunity to build that trusted circle so that you can take it on beyond just the day. One of the other things that we've done too, Julie, that mirrors what you were just talking about with the Galentine's Day is we've started what we call our coffee circles. And so we hold these once a month, and it's just an opportunity informally to get together with other women that are leading tech companies or mid-career in their tech journey. And in an informal way, just have coffee and talk to them about what's happening with you in your life right now, not just professionally, but personally, and share opportunities for growth.
I was just thinking, we do things like this. We have our Galentine's nights. We have our, our monthly coffee thing or our monthly whatever you want to call it. We have our conferences that are geared towards women. And I can imagine, men on the other side saying, we don't have some men's conference to do whatever, and we're not having, why do you guys need this special whatever weekend thing, blah 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 blah. And I think to myself, yeah, but when the whole world has focused on you the whole time, when it has been your oyster in your space, you haven't had to do that. You go to the golf course and don't think twice. With those people you are making connections with. Talk about the importance of having something like this, because for the very fact that it's second nature for men, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And just again, that trusted circle, that network. I cannot tell you the number of times, I'm a consultant. I work with tech companies. The number of times I have team members come up to me and say, "Hey, Jen, we've launched this new company. We launched this new product." And I talked to them about, I'm like, "That's great. How did that happen? How did you find funding for it?" "Well, we just reached out to our five friends or, members on the council or what have you, to our trusted network. And we were able to raise some dollars and put this product out." It's not as easy for women. We don't inherently do that, right? And so being very purposeful about creating that community, that ecosystem where that feels more natural to us to ask. I talk to women all the time about, ask. I know it doesn't feel organic to you or natural to you, but ask. You have this trusted circle, and this is why we're doing it. And again, I go back to, it is super important for us to create this diversity and this voice in every industry so that we are creating the best products that we can.
It's interesting because I don't, this will be my opinion. I don't want to put this on you, Jennifer, but, I think that personally, looking at the women in my life, I think we have slightly different tugs on us still that men do. Won't get into the patriarchy too in depth. We do that on other podcast episodes, but, I really do, as a stepmom who owns a business, who has a podcast and, lots going on in my world, I do feel that pull to not do one more thing, to not have that women's group that I might really crave and really want, but that would be more time away from my family or more time away from my business, even though I know that it's going to help me pour back into my business and my family. I think that, and I'm not saying that men don't have those same pulls. I do think that our society has different expectations for men. Like when a male CEO is being interviewed for, a headline article in the newspaper, they're not asked about how they balance things between work and home. They're just asked about the headline in the newspaper. Women are always asked about how they balance things. And, so that double standard still exists. And I think oftentimes it might keep women from reaching out. There's a great group of entrepreneurs that I work with in West Michigan. And right now, this incredible group only has one female member. And we're talking entrepreneurial founders in West Michigan. And so then it becomes this chicken or the egg. There's only one woman in the group. And when part of the focus is being able to be open and share experiences and keep that confidentiality, even I would think, gosh, are these guys going to relate to some of the home life challenges or the balance challenges that I have? Yeah. And so how do you recruit more women into a group where there's only one woman? And so, I think it's part of this evolution that we're continuing to see. It's such a slow process, Reischea, as you said, to take this man's world that we all live in and adjust to have it be balanced. I can't wait for the day when we don't have a need necessarily for like women only groups. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you just said there, Julie, because I literally just read an article. It was either last week or at some point last week or late the week before. And it was a father who, because of the schedule with his wife, it was easier for him to take his young kid to preschool. And it was interesting because he was talking about the cliques, which I know about, the preschool cliques of parents, and the fact that he, I want to say that he was part-time remote and then part-time would go into office depending on the day. But he said since he's taking his kids to preschool, he'd wear like the sweats and a t-shirt and whatever. And all of these assumptions were dumped on him about who he was. Oh, you're filling in for mom. So we do it too. We do it as women too. We put these labels on people without even thinking twice. And I too look forward, Julie, to that time when we can, it's just who is this person? We need to get that person, which makes me want to circle back to you, Jennifer, about what Julie had said earlier about the fact that this group of men had reached out to you, because at the same time, we're not trying to say we don't need the help of our men. Of course we do. We all need the help of all of us together. So can you also talk about a little bit about how it felt that basically they opened up their eyes and said, we need to be an ally. And they reached out to you to do that very thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It was very empowering. They again, as tech leaders, they all recognize the need for a diverse workforce, for a diverse team and in thought and product. It's just inherent in what they do. I want to go back to, you had mentioned something about kind of all of the challenges that women face. When I started this journey 2 years ago and started launching the Circle Coffees, I started with happy hours, and I did that because that's what I knew, right? And the council still today is, 90% of men, and they still love their happy hours. And so I was challenged with finding women to join us at our happy hours, because they wanted to get home after work. They wanted to be present with their children for dinner or for the sporting events or those different things. And so I realized that I was using a model that I built for the men of the council, and it didn't work for the ecosystem that I was trying to create. And so that's why we shifted to the coffee circles. And even those can be a little bit challenging. So we find ourselves bouncing between coffee circles and lunch and shifting it up. I just thinking about that, even I've had to learn about this culture and this community that we've created, and being diverse in the way that in my approach, in putting a product in opportunities on the table that serve everybody.
As you look universally, big picture, what needs to be done to support women? I mean, what you're doing in Grand Rapids, I think, serves as a great model for what other cities and other regions can do. What would you like to see universally?
Yeah, I first think that we need to change our thought and our narrative, right? During the coffee circles that I host, I have so many women entrepreneurs that come to the table that were doing something different in their life for many years, because tech isn't often modeled for us at a very young age, right? And so because of that, we go into different careers and different fields. But I see many women now deciding that they want to start their own company, and they want to do that through tech. But they still come with this narrative that they are not a tech leader, that they're an entrepreneur, but they're not a tech leader. And I don't see that in the men. And so because of that, they're restricting their opportunities to grow and be a part of other ecosystems. So we need to change that narrative, right? So I have a young lady that worked in the insurance industry forever. And she decided that she was going to use tech to launch a platform that enables people that were in terrible, horrific car accidents to be able to find service providers in a different way. And so she is a tech founder. She's a tech leader. I have others with very similar stories. So number one, we need to change that narrative. We need to dive deep into our K through 12 schools and start to create opportunities to mirror tech for young girls, and create an opportunity for them to engage with other tech women leaders so they can see themselves in those particular roles.
Let's build on that a little bit. What changes or advancements are you really excited about? What things are you seeing that are advancing the very things that you are currently talking about?
Yeah, thanks, Reese. Let's talk about our 10-year tech strategy, because I haven't hit on that. So 2 years ago, the Right Place set out on a bit of a virtual journey to study other cities that were similar to Grand Rapids. And what we found are that those cities that had tech as their leading industry, but were really looking to become a tech hub, that they were light years ahead of others in job creation and creating that culture. And so we launched a 10-year tech strategy in collaboration with many of our community and business leaders in Grand Rapids. And so we aspire to create another 20,000 tech jobs in the next 10 years and really elevate our tech workforce. And we're going to do that through a multi-pronged approach. Digging deep into our K through 12 schools, and again, creating those opportunities to educate both our stakeholders and our teachers and our parents about tech careers and tech opportunities, especially for young women. We're going to do that through our university settings by creating an opportunity for those women that happen to be in tech fields, or even those that are exploring it, for them to engage with other women tech leaders running companies in West Michigan and founders. And guess what? That's not just going into the CS programs, it's going into the business school and talking to them about starting tech companies. And then we're going to take a look at all of those women that have been working in industries that they're not seeing the advances that they want, and presenting opportunities for them to be able to start tech companies and creating that bridge into the tech industry. So I'm really excited about our 10-year tech strategy. There's been so many advances thus far. And yeah, I think that there's a lot on the horizon for us.
And for all the moms and dads who are listening, I think just a note that, it really strikes me as you're talking about, growing up, we didn't see a lot of women in tech. Or if we did, they were the outliers. They were different from the rest of the industry. So for all the parents who might not feel like they know how to talk about tech to their kids, you can still encourage them. Even if you feel like it's a world that is foreign to you or is different for you, we can still encourage our kids to be exploring all industries, but especially tech and all of the advancements. I think so many industries we're seeing, especially with AI and the evolution of technology right now happening so quickly. I mean, as we speak, that, it's like it touches every industry. So it's hard to go far without having some sort of technology involved. The next question, I want to actually dive into our rapid fire questions, because we have rapid fire questions for every guest. This first one, I'm going to adjust just a little bit, because I want to hear, what is one piece of advice that you would give to young women who are aspiring to have a career in tech?
Yeah, I would say, reach out to organizations like The Right Place that are working on a 10-year tech strategy. I mean, we are really trying to create that career lattice from high school to college to the aspiring companies that we have, the vibrant tech community that we have here in West Michigan.
Can you share a book, quote, or resource that has really had a significant impact on your journey?
Yeah, so many great books. I am an avid reader. There is one by Dr. Henry Cloud. And if you've not read him, he is a wonderful author, many different books, but one of the ones that I love is called Necessary Endings. And it's about changing the patterns that we become so accustomed to in our lives, not just our professional lives, but our personal lives, and really looking towards those ambassadors that can help create that new space for you.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Consider tech. Consider tech as a career.
I love it. Short, sweet, to the point. Consider tech. Answer solved.
Jennifer, it has been amazing having you on the podcast. I feel like the time flew by. Talk about an unnecessary ending, because I would love to just keep you on and keep talking. But thank you for being on the show. And thank you for all of the work that you are doing to support women in tech in Grand Rapids and beyond.
Julie, Reese, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on and allowing me to share my story.
Oh, it's been a pleasure having you with us. And please, before you click away from this show, remember to hit subscribe, and we will see you next time on Think Tank of 3 podcast.